release of 28 Years Later quickly approaching, it's got me thinking all things zombies. I have got my zombie ambience on in the background, which you probably can't see because of the light reflecting on it. There's actually loads of zombie ones on YouTube. So I've been thinking about my favourite zombie films. I wasn't sure whether to do a top 10 zombie films that I love, but I didn't really want to include ones that are more popular, ones that everybody knows about. I wanted to kind of think about zombie films that are underrated, ones that kind of are under the radar and maybe are a little bit unique to the genre. So I have chosen 8 zombie films that I personally really have enjoyed that actually don't follow the usual formula for a zombie film. All of these ones are kind of unique takes on the subgenre, so hopefully I can recommend some that you haven't heard of before. If you also know of any unique zombie films, I know there are tons more than the ones that I've included in this video. I may do a part 2 because I have a list of them and it's honestly so long. I've added so many zombie films to my watch list in preparation for this video, but I think I have a nice amount to talk about today with most of these recommendations because they are so unique. You don't necessarily have to like zombie films to watch them because these choices are ones with so many other elements. So let's get straight into it with my first choice, which is a film called The Battery. 2 baseball players find themselves in a fight for survival in an apocalyptic world taken over by zombies. I know that description was very vague, but the thing is, in this film, it's not one where it's completely action-packed. It's not one where there is loads going on. It's kind of just like a journey. We're just following these 2 guys and their relationship with each other, their emotions in this situation, and their daily lives, how much it has changed, obviously, because of this horrific thing that's happened. They do struggle to get on at times. We really see an insight into their relationship that is kind of one of the main focuses in this film. The ups and the downs and the dynamic of their friendship. This is definitely one of the slower recommendations on the list. I feel like the tone in most zombie films is really chaotic, but in this one it kind of has more of a chilled tone, quite a laid back film. Obviously there are some intense and more actiony scenes, but for the most part it is kind of a mellow film. There are quite a few scenes where we do just follow them in their daily lives, just doing mundane things, but obviously set in this apocalyptic world, but not necessarily always surrounded by zombies. We actually don't see that many zombies in most scenes. There are obviously scenes where there are more zombies. They're traveling around trying to find other people, going into a lot of abandoned houses and things like that. I think the choice to not have a lot of zombies in some of the scenes just really shows how isolated and lonely they are. You can really feel the desperation for them at times, wanting to find other survivors so bad. It is definitely quite emotional at times and it's kind of relatable if you could imagine yourself in that situation. I do really appreciate this type of film because obviously if a zombie apocalypse actually happened, then not everybody is going to be where all the zombies are. So to see films where we see characters that are just in different locations is really interesting, and a lot of films on this list kind of have that formula. You can stream The Battery on Amazon Prime. My next recommendation is Pontypool. Whilst live on radio, a host gets reports of a virus outbreak turning people into zombies. The small amount of people working in this radio shack, well, it's kind of more of a basement, but the people working there do manage to barricade themselves in, but they soon realise that the virus is actually spread in a very unique and unexpected way. This whole film actually takes place inside this radio shack, so it is set in a isolated small single location. There is actually also only 4 characters that we see. We mainly follow 3 of them, 2 of them being more of the main characters though, and they do stay live on the radio whilst all these events are happening, whilst they're getting calls coming in telling them the news of the outbreak and the devastation that is going on beyond this radio shack. In a way, this does remind me a little bit of 10 Cloverfield Lane. The plot lines are completely different, but with the element of the people in this isolated location being told stuff about the outside world, not given proof straight away, not actually knowing if this is actually happening or not. Although it is only ambiguous for a short amount of time, I think my favourite part about this film is definitely the ending. It is so unique and refreshing. It has something that is so specific and unique to this film. I've never seen any other film do anything like this. You can stream Pontypool on Shudder. My third recommendation is The Cured. A cure has been found, turning infected people back to their human selves after a horrific pandemic that turned people into relentless zombies. Once they are turned back, the cured struggle to get back to their lives like they were before, as they still have these horrific memories of everything that they did when they were zombies, including things like killing their loved ones and just terrible things that they didn't have control over. I was really drawn into this film because of the concept. People who once were zombies being cured but still having having all these memories of what they've done, living with these memories of turning against your loved ones, your family, and just doing awful things, killing them and eating them, I guess, and then just going back to normal. It's just such a crazy concept, and I'm so glad that there are horror films like this, because it does make you think what would happen if, when watching these insane zombie films, if it just all ended. It's about people who are living with trauma and some people who just can't live with the things that they have done. It is quite genre bending, being set in a post-apocalyptic dystopian world. It is kind of a drama with horror and action elements. When I first watched this film, I did think it was super original, but that was before I watched another film on this list which has the same kind of concept. It does have a lot of differences, but it is still about people who have been cured, who were once zombies. I did actually enjoy the other one quite a bit more. Although they do have their differences, they both are worth watching individually. You can stream this one for free on Tubi. My next recommendation is one that I have spoken about a little bit recently, and that is the film Cargo. In the middle of a zombie apocalypse, a father is travelling with his young daughter to try and find her safety after they tragically lost her mother. He has 48 hours to make sure his daughter is safe. Unfortunately, on their travels, he does come across a few different groups of people who have been affected differently during this outbreak. Some of these people have been changed for the worst, although they're not even the ones who are infected. This again is one where we don't see too many zombies. We actually just more focus on the characters and their journey, as well as the people that they meet on the way. Very much like The Walking Dead, where the zombies are more of a background element and the main enemies are people that are alive. I wasn't expecting this one to be as emotional as it was. You can watch Cargo on Netflix. My next recommendation is One Cut of the Dead. A low-budget zombie film is being shot in an abandoned warehouse, but things go sideways when actual zombies turn up, terrorizing the crew on set. This is a horror comedy, and I have spoken about this one before as well, and that's for a reason. It's because I really love this film. It is definitely one of my favourite zombie films and one of my favourite horror comedies. Annoyingly, it is one that I can't speak about too much without ruining it. When you first start watching this film, you may be a little bit confused, but you just have to stick with it. Trust me, there is a reason why it has such high reviews. It is so worth that you watch this till the end. To be honest, when I first watched this film, probably the first 20 minutes or maybe even longer, I was very confused. I was confused why it has such high reviews. I didn't know what the hell was going on, and I honestly was thinking about turning it off, but I think the fact that it does have such good reviews made me stick with it, and also I did kind of know a bit too much about it going in, unfortunately. But maybe that was fortunately, because I don't know if I actually would have turned it off or not if I didn't know what was to come. But this is your sign to watch this film and stick with it. It truly is a roller coaster. Definitely don't watch the trailer if you don't want any spoilers, because the trailer does give away quite a big plot point, and I do think this one is probably best gone in blind. Obviously, any of the clips that I show of the trailer are not going to include any spoilers at all. It's so unique with the storyline and the format. I've never seen any other film like it. It is just so clever and so well done. The ending really just ties everything in together. It kind of brings it round to a full circle moment and is just really satisfying. You can stream One Cut of the Dead on Shudder. My next recommendation is #Alive. In the age of technology, a young man who is so used to being online suddenly can't reach anyone and doesn't have access to the outside world when he wakes up one day to see some devastating news on TV. When he looks out the window, he realizes that it is all true and he is stuck in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, held up inside his apartment. He is feeling very isolated, alone and afraid until he begins to communicate without technology to a girl who is in an opposite building. #Alive is set in an apartment complex, but most of the film is just set in the main character's small apartment. He is just a young adult who is freaking out and doesn't know what to do when he hears the news of the outbreak. He manages to hold up in his apartment for quite a long time, but then he does start to run out of supplies like food. Luckily, when he is at his lowest, he then receives communications from another survivor who helps him. They help each other out with supplies and surviving. We get to see their friendship begin and flourish. The first few scenes of this film are quite sad because it just does feel so lonely. You can watch #Alive on Netflix. My next recommendation is The Return. Zombies are a thing of the past thanks to a drug that must be taken daily that turns people back to humans. But for those who are taking this medication, if they even miss one dosage, then they will turn back to a zombie. People on this drug are learning to live back in society. Even though that they are human again, they're constantly being harassed and treated as subhuman. Rumours start going around that supplies for this drug are low, which causes mass panic amongst the returned and the ones closest to them. I actually went into this one with not the highest expectations and was really pleasantly surprised with how engaged I felt and how entertaining this film was. Although it is kind of a straightforward plot, I think the uniqueness mixed with the tension is what really kept me hooked. I absolutely loved the somber dramatic score that also kind of sounded a bit technological at times. I found it really interesting. Paired with the cool tone visuals, it reminded me of elements from films I watched growing up as a teen in the 2000s. Of course, this premise may sound familiar because there is another film on this list that is very similar, that is The Cured. It just has the same kind of premise as I said earlier. This one did actually come up first, although I watched this one after I watched The Cured because I wasn't even aware this film existed. I do think this film was probably a little bit of inspiration for The Cured, and it definitely paved the way for other unique zombie films. You can stream The Returned on Amazon Prime. My last recommendation is Ravenous. This French-Canadian film follows survivors of a rural community as they struggle to escape a huge amount of zombies. This one is a slow burn and some scenes do drag on a little bit, but I think that is really my only criticism because this film really is unique. It is a great film and it's absolutely stunning to look at. The zombies are really original as well. They act very different in this rather than the usual brain dead mindless zombies that we're used to. These ones seem to still have some faults and are clever in ways. It's almost like they are possessed because they still have some more human elements to them. It kind of does remind me of Deadites from the Evil Dead franchise where they are possessed but they are dead. So it kind of merges the lines of zombies and possessed. The zombies do also run in this one, which sounds kind of weird to bring up, but I think in so many zombie films they just walk and are really slow, so when you see a zombie film when they are running, it just makes it like 10 times more terrifying, especially when they're running and also have like some thought processes and are kind of like deviant. This is very character focused, it's very raw and real and gritty. There is also a post-credit scene in this film, so make sure you stick around and don't just turn it off when the credits start rolling. Ravenous is available to stream on Netflix. So there are all of the recommendations that I'm going to give in today's video. Do let me know if you've watched any of these and what you thought of them, and do let me know if you have any other recommendations for underrated and more unique zombie films. I do still have tons on my watch list, but hopefully this gave you a few more to add to your watch list. As always, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you again in another one soon.